voice èṣù o bàbá wa bàbá mi èṣù wá èṣù wá èṣù.
Good dawning, everyone. Peace and welcome to another segment of Community. And of course, this is the dawning segment that you all are tuning in. My name is Chief Yuya, and I want to welcome you to Enlightenment and Transformation, and especially just welcome you to another strong of doing strong things, right? So Monday, of course, is our day of wealth, and I see chat room, everyone's spilling in through the front door. Brother Haru and Brother Justin, Sister Madeline, Sister Michelle, Sister Jennifer. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. I trust that this strong end, you were able to spend some time doing things and being with people you value and you love, and that bring great nutrition to your world and to your life. You know, keep yourself surrounded by good people. Keep yourself surrounded by good food, metaphorically and literally, and you'd be surprised just how far you could go just by that alone, just by keeping the parasites up off you. You'd be how surprised you know how far you could go. So, as many of you know, this month we've been dealing with the topic of authority. Peace, Brother Anthony. The topic of authority on Chief Speaks and Sister Marva, of course. Peace. And we've been covering some other addendum material to help us to further understand the actual Sunday topic. So of course that the Monday through Friday community pieces serve as a support, support to where we go, where we're going, or where we're trying to get to on our Sunday pieces. I'm going to give everyone a call-in number now for anyone who wants to call in. You want to be heard, or you just, if it's more convenient for you to utilize your phone line than the SU line, than the YouTube line, I'm going to give you the phone number as well. So it's 515-605-9862. All right, if you want to call in. And if you want to speak, just hit the number 1. And of course, we have the chat room and YouTube going. Let me get a little drink of water. We have the chat room and YouTube going as well. So if you have a question or comment or whatever, just throw it in there. Yeah. So we were building yesterday on the topic of authority, and I said it was gonna get ugly in a minute, just because of what it was that some of the angles and things that needed to be discussed. But I said, we would leave some of it for next Sunday. So we'll be continuing more of that discussion. And I definitely urge any of you who have been listening to go back and, check out the, the shows going forward, the shows going forward from even January, because it will help you to kind of get a sense of the direction we're going and the direction that we're taking. But we've been covering a lot of things so far, and I think just from building with people and talking to them on the side that people have been able to understand, and that's the key. You can say everything you want, but if people don't understand, then what's the point, right? So yeah, we're gonna get right into it, and like I said, feel free to call in, comment, whatever. I'm actually, as I'm talking right now, I'm scrolling through the comments of yesterday, we'll say, um, just to see if there's anything I need to address. But I don't think so. I think everyone got what they needed to get. I'm just looking here. And thank you for, again, the words of congratulations, and for the words of thank you. I appreciate that. I see those people have been commenting on that as well. But yeah, it looks like everybody was clear. Like I always say, if you have some questions and stuff, I'll try to go back through the comments and see if there's anything that needs to be addressed or whatever like that. Now I'm gonna point out something for you all to pay attention to. You know, uh, and it's almost a war tactic. That's good to know. There was a comment that was left on the video. I'm trying to remember which video it was. The signs of PTSD, right? And that was the one when the chat room got a little funky. And Soul Love commented and said, "Horrible show. Totally disappointed in the conversation and how it was handled." And she got a +1 thumbs up on that. And Michelle Bonilla asked her, now that was 3 days ago. That same day, Michelle Bonilla asked her, "Soul Love, thank you for sharing your opinion. Soul Love, what would you have done? Question mark. 2 thumbs up on that. And then Sister Sequoia also asked, "Peace, sister, what about the conversation was disappointing?" And then an hour ago, Sister Gloria C says, "At what point did you start listening? Question mark. There were plenty of jewels prior to the quote unquote conversation. The situation was handled accordingly. And if your only takeaway from this 2 hour plus free show was how a disagreement was handled, then listen again." So I noticed that an hour ago, and I just bring it up to say, war can create inefficiencies in your movement forward. And not that anyone there is warring, but if someone makes a statement like that and then you ask a question for clarification and there's no clarification, just keep it moving. Just keep it moving. Because you're not going to hear anything that makes sense. You're not going to hear anything that makes sense, and you're going to just end up tiring yourself out. That's why a lot of times it's good to ask questions. I tell you guys all the time, one of the great ways to shut down foolishness is just to ask this. It's real simple. Real simple. What do you mean? That's it. I use it all the time. 4 words. What do you mean? You said da da da, and then you did that. Okay, what do you mean by that? Can you explain? What do you mean? So you find that from the moment that Sister Michelle even asked, "What do you mean? Can you explain?" Or, well, actually, she said, "What would you have done?" No comment. Sequoia said, "What was disappointing?" No comment. So you start to learn at some point very efficient uses of your energy. We kind of spoke about that in the segment dealing with the predators. Stepping into a room of vultures. And Brother Byron had asked a question. Peace, Brother Byron, by the way. I see you in the chat room, as well as Brother Keith and Sister Nicole and Brother Anwar and Brother Jabari as well. But Brother Byron had asked that question, do you end up expending more energy when you have to be around that type of environment. Well, not necessarily if you're coming into the environment with peace, Patrice. If you're coming into the environment with tactics and strategy, so even when you're speaking this kind of information, or you're in this type of circle, it's very important to understand sometimes the natural guttural, guttural meaning like from the throat, the guttural reaction that a lot of people are going to have, the immediate knee-jerk reaction that they may have without necessarily thinking. If you already know that off the bat, you know that from the rip, then you learn how to conserve your energy. And I know it is annoying. I know it is. Sometimes people say certain things and it's very insulting even, or like I've said at certain times, hey, like when people say, I hated this show, this and that, normally I like the shows. And then I'm always thinking, I don't say it because I'm not engaging in a conversation with someone who would even think to do that. But I'm thinking in the back of my mind, but I've never seen your name on any of the shows that you say you loved. Like, I've never seen anything positive. You just come in when you want to say something, maybe even unfounded, or you just want to state an opinion that's contrary, which is fine. You're allowed to say, I didn't like this show. I don't care about that. But sometimes there's a way to say things that can actually build towards something else. Or sometimes people will throw out vague opinion just to get a reaction. And you have to be sensitive. Honestly, coming into consciousness, you got to be sensitive to all of those little devilish tactics that people use. A lot of times when someone throws out a certain action, like there's an action when you say, this was horrible, I'm disappointed. And you say, okay, what do you mean? Could you explain your action to me? And then they start touting off and ranting off opinion. You see, opinion is not a justification for non-action. And you find that some people in this world, they're full of opinions, and there's no action that follows up. You see that a lot in the conscious collectives. There are a lot of people who will sit back and look at you, who are active, look at you who are actually doing something. You're setting up shrines and you're reading books and you're trying to reach out to young people, and you're showing a new level of kindness to your neighbor, a new level of kindness to your elders, a new level of kindness to yourself, where maybe you didn't even know that behaving or functioning in that way ever even existed, to give yourself that level of sensitive care. And you're actually active. You're actively moving. You're actively working towards treating yourself better and treating others in the world better. And you have those who are doing absolutely nothing but commenting. All they're good for is commentary. That's it. You see? So, peace, Sister Gina. All they're good for is commentary. All they can do is comment on what you're doing and how you ain't doing it right and how it ain't going to work. And, and it's opinion, because you could say, well, what do you mean? And then that's when they'll try to pretend to be noble. Well, it's just my opinion. You do it your way. Well, no, you just said something. You just threw a rock. So now I'm asking you, why did you throw the rock? And it comes to nothing. So, a lot of times, like I said, family, you can avoid a lot of the headache and the stress when you see stuff like that, because it's all over the place, just by asking some basic questions. And if that question doesn't open up the door to any type of sanity after that, that's it. Your job is done. Your question is answered. Your question is answered after that. The concern that you have mentally, because the question is this person sane or not? Okay, start there. Is what they're saying founded? Okay, well, let's find out. Let's see if what their statement is even has legs. If I say, hey, boom, 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 and you have nothing left to give, you have nothing left to say. All right, well, all right, I see. That's what they call trolling, right? Internet troll. Now, of course, you have trolls in real life too, So you're just dealing with the troll, man. Save your energy. You need enough energy to cut through your own mess. And understand why those decoys are placed here. They're just decoys. Keep you from doing what it is that you're supposed to do. Okay, I need a little bit of water. As you all know, I'm not going to go through the story again, but my voice is, I haven't been sensitive to my own throat. So, Brother Byron asked in a group just now, does commentary equate to a parasite? Not necessarily. It's so funny. So I guess I will have to tell a little bit of the story. As many of you know, my youth this Saturday won the Golden Gloves champion here, which is, for those of you who are international listeners, it's a boxing tournament ran by USA Boxing, which is like the boxing commission here in the US. And something interesting happened. When I was speaking to my youth after the fight, I was telling him, I said, this is where it starts. I said, you have to be aware that this is where it all starts. And when he said, what do you mean? I said, well, this is where now the parasites are going to come out now. You see everybody's jumping around, they're screaming your name. Everybody wants to take pictures of you. Everybody's hugging you and can't believe it, that you did this, at such a young age, and you came out and first fight, boom, took the championship, so people are going to be talking about it. So I said, there's going to be people now who maybe haven't been checking for you in a long time, girls in particular, who are going to come out of the woodwork. And then he came to me maybe 20 minutes after that. And he said, Bobby, you're not going to believe this. On my Instagram, my ex-girlfriend congratulated me like 4 times. And we haven't even been, this is a little young lady who had, he was with, nice looking young lady. But, she was messing around on him. I knew that was going to happen though. Her family had moved a little further out. And I said, yeah, she's gonna have her fun. And he didn't believe me, of course, because that's how Shango youth are. They don't listen. They gotta learn everything the hard way. They know everything. So I said, why do you think she's coming back now? Everybody, your Instagram is popping. Everybody is, got little flicks and videos of you from the fight. So you're all over the place. And now all of a sudden, that same night, she pops up, and then she said she wanted to come and visit this Friday coming. And, she hasn't been around, and she lives another state away, and she wants to come visit. So, he asked me, well, what is it that I should do? And I said, well, there's a couple ways you could look at it. I said, she's behind you. So right now in your career, you want to take it all the way to the top. You said you wanted to be a world champ. So, you want to move and drive forward, but she wants to bring you back to another time, to another age. And, and I said, and of course, when she comes Friday, she's going to try to sneak you off and have sex with you. You do know that, and he said, yeah, I know. Now, mind you, my youth is only 15. All right. So to be clear when I'm talking like that, so you get the perspective. So, I said, essentially, there's 2 ways that she can come at you. She can come at you to serve, or she can come at you to be a parasite. That's pretty much it. I know that's harsh language. I know it is. So I said, right now, you're moving, you're doing things, you're a rising star. And he said, yeah, I kind of know she just wants to hitch to my trailer, like you always say. So he was like, yeah, I said, do what you feel to do, but if it was me, I wouldn't even deal with her on any level, because you're mixing energy now. And you dealt with her when you weren't a winner. So, you don't want to bring that back into your life, but, do what you feel. So he agreed and said, yeah, not a good move. So, thinking about the difference between a parasite and one who just gives opinionated commentary, there is a degree of parasitical energy with the consummate commentator. But then you have those who will directly try to engage you, and directly try to put themselves inside of your circle to feed from you. And sometimes we don't do that when we look at our friends or our families around. Sometimes, because we feel that there has to be this element of love, and element of love causes us not to have to be critical. We don't critically look at our circle and say, what exactly does this person add? Because if they're adding nothing, they can only be taking. There's no neutral. They're just there. And sometimes we really confuse even the idea of like a ride or die. I've heard that so many times used incorrectly. And there's a fine line between someone who's your road dog, ride or die, day one, and a parasite. There's a very fine line. In my opinion, actually, there's a coarse line. But that's just the way I'm thinking. There's a coarse line. There's a big difference. But for some, in their perception, it's a fine line. And you have to sometimes ask yourself very critical questions. Again, because people will be quick to give themselves that title. I was with you when you didn't have anything. And that's why I didn't have anything. I've been here from day one. Yeah, you just been here. Just been here. Like that old chair in the corner of the living room that I need to get rid of. Like that old carpet with all the dust mites in it that I need to just roll up and bring out to the garbage truck. You just been there. Zapping and sucking energy. So yeah, there's a distinct difference in that sense. Those who tend to comment more than anything, they're fearful. They don't feel the winning energy or the winning spirit in their own lives. So, they have to zap it and bring you down to their space in your life. Whatever it is that you're doing, they have to make sure that there's no excitement in themselves that's generated. And that's why I said, a lot of times you have to be careful with people who respond to your action with opinion, as opposed to responding to your action with action. And, it's an actionable action. But, just even thinking and giving back a word of intelligence. If you say, well, what about this? Well, what makes you say that? Or, like I said, what do you mean? Sometimes my other question is, who are you talking to? Sometimes that stops a lot of foolishness too. Who are you talking to? Maybe you forgot who you're talking to. Sometimes people forget. They say things that they shouldn't say. So, yeah, there's a distinction there in terms of that. Now, brother Haru says, do you think that people are aware that they may be used to test your conviction or perspective? Or is it purely reactionary when they challenge us in that way? Yeah, the thing is, though, you're right. Some people, I think, honestly, brother Haru, they're all used. Oh, you said, okay, you fixed it. Not your conviction per se, Chief, but for everyone who's working to correct or enhance their character. Right. I mean, even my conviction, yeah. Because with, don't think that, I mean, I ignore a lot of things, but, it's like, throwing, even feathers hitting you consistently become annoying after a while. So it's not necessarily it's damaging or anything like that. But yeah, sometimes you pull back and you say, wait a minute, if I'm in an environment with everyone is always saying something stupid or has some little slick commentary or is disrespecting me even, or disrespecting what's being taught, then it gives me an opportunity to say, hey, maybe I'm not in the right environment. Maybe this isn't the space I need to be in. So there's a value, definitely, brother Haru. There's a value when someone does that, but you have to learn when you've learned your lesson, which lets you know when to move out of that space. Sometimes we stay. I had a friend, a guy who we used to be friends, like that many years ago, and no, not too long ago actually, maybe about 10 years ago. We stopped vibing, and he had this wife who I think I don't know. I heard some funny stuff. I don't know if they're still together, but at the time, real Negro, but she played the part well, had a nice little short natural, was a dancer, an actress, and ate had a little cabinet, a little apothecary in the house, had little herbs and all her little oils and all. So you look at her and think she, conscious sister, but she wasn't. She's a Negro. And because behind the scenes, he would tell me about all the struggles and terms of certain moves they want to make, and she was very much linked into the idea of still getting her piece of the pie, the American pie. So he educated or formally trained up through his doctorate, and but he wanted to do more community work, and that was always an issue with her behind the scenes, because she'd be like, no, you could make more money doing this, and so in that sense, I remember one time we were talking about it, and I said, well, brother, at this point, and at that point they didn't have any children yet, they now do, but I said, well, you don't have any children with the sister, and you have an opportunity now to make a very important decision. You know what you've committed your life to, and you've been doing this, and you've now linked with someone, and he also was polygynous minded at the time too, but she wasn't hearing it. So he knew that wasn't going to be a reality in his marriage. So, I had said, well, there's a few things that it seems that you really, really have strong convictions about that she could care less about, or she just is not trying to hear it. So I said, you really need to ask yourself if you're ready to sacrifice that much, because see, a lot of times people don't understand, like, when it comes to relationships, men and women, their love, they approach it a bit different. A man's love is always going to be centered around a sacrifice. A woman's love is more centered around reception. And it's not to say that one loves more than the other, but they're different form. We're different. We look different on the outside. We're different on the inside. So a man looks at all that he gives up as a testament to his love. I was juggling 5 different women when I met you, but I stopped cheating on you when I proposed. That kind of funny logic, so, but he's looking at all that he's given up, and sometimes he can confuse himself into thinking that he's getting into an authentic love relationship because he sacrificed so much. But the sacrifice is what hooks you in and locks you in. The lovers that we have that are so hard to stop thinking about and so hard to get out of our psyche are the ones that we've sacrificed so much of ourselves for. Because once they're gone, there's so much of ourselves missing, you see. But in that instance, he had said to me, back to the point, he had said to me that, well, this is just the state of our people. I remember him saying that. He was like, this is where our people are. I was like, yeah, but this is your lady. Like, we out here in the fields, we're going to fight the good fight out here in the fields. But when you go back home, you have to have a place to lay your head in peace, or you're going to go insane. And he was like, his whole theory, and I'm answering you, Brother Haru, was that it's better to have oh, you know the story of Sundiata, Brother Haru. Good. I'm sorry, that was a digression. That's probably one of my favorite books, if not my favorite book, Sundiata of Mali. But anyway, so he was saying, it's better to have that energy inside my house because there's a strengthening that comes from it, because he has to deal with it and combat it. Now, he was well convicted in that theory and that idea at that time that we had that discussion, which I think was around maybe 2006. Yeah, it was like 2006, 2007, because we kind of had to part ways, because she was doing some funny stuff to me. And I was like, bro, we can't be having that. That's not acceptable. And I, in proper protocol, I didn't tell her. I spoke to him, and we met in the park one day, and I said, yo, we need to powwow. And I sat down and said, this is what your wife is doing, man. She can't do that. But in any event, that was his theory, to marry someone, who is diametrically opposed to his culture, is a way to prepare himself for his external enemies. I didn't agree with that perspective then, and I don't agree with it now. I agree with the unity model a little bit more than, inserting myself into a hostile environment in order to evolve or mutate into this defensive warrior. So I don't think it worked out for him, because there's been a lot of reports of issues that he's had since then. So I'm just sharing that because it's different sides of that, different ways to look at it. But, anytime somebody comes at you funny, it's an opportunity for strengthening. Anytime, anyway, it lets you know where you're at, by your reaction, and by the level of control that you have in your reaction. Doesn't mean that you'll never go off, because you can go off. You're allowed to do that. If you're allowed to joke and laugh and smile and rejoice, why would you not be allowed, or why would it be frowned upon to share the other spectrum, the other side of the spectrum? So if you're going to laugh and you rejoice, you may also cry and lament. You may also be angry at times and express your rage, or express your frustration, or express your irritation. It's just a part of the spectrum. That's all. It's just a part of the spectrum. So let's see. Brother Akil asked, I'm just going to go through these questions. Excuse me. These are good questions. Chief, so what do I do when one of my women don't have a job, but she's deep into spirituality? Give her a job. Let me keep reading. There was more to it. So he says, Chief, so what do I do when one of my women don't have a job, but she deep into spirituality, and my other one is an executive, but not spiritual at all? Should I cut one loose? No. Why? What for? Just because one professes spirituality doesn't mean that they're actually spiritual. You got one woman, you said, who has a job, or she's deep into spirituality, but she doesn't have a job. Well, does she have employment of sorts? Does she have revenue? Does she have an income? Because, I don't want anybody with a job. So, job isn't really the thing. But I kind of get what you're saying. She just doesn't have any money, or she doesn't have a job or have a business or anything like that. Which, of course, you find a lot of times in the quote-unquote spiritual community. Everybody got their little business. And a lot of times the business doesn't necessarily support what it is that they say they are, what they say they're doing. When you sit back and you add it up, when you put 2 plus 2 together, it just doesn't really make sense. And you realize a lot of times people are living off the system. They're on welfare, or, they got child support coming in. And I'm not knocking that per se. I am knocking anyone who lives off of child support. That's foul. But I'm not knocking that if you're on a system or whatever. But sometimes people will hide the fact that they're on a system under this facade of, I have my own business. I sell soaps and products, and, it's always something like that. I do Reiki session. Well, how much is a session? $10. Huh? How the heck are you supporting you and your 2-3 children on $10 Reiki? So you got to sometimes add it up together like that. And then you said you got one who's an executive who's not spiritual at all. If you don't like your woman's personality, give her a new one. Bottom line. And if it sets, then cool. Keep it. You got something. Keep moving. But you don't have to confirm. You don't have to conform. Remember, women are. This kind of goes to what I was going to speak about a little bit today. I think by now, those of us listening, pretty much by now, just the basics of some of your elementals, and women are the water and the earth element. And the earth element is very interesting because even in like our Yoruba, we have the earth is connected to Ogun, but also Yemonja. That's why you have that archetype, or that path of Yemonja Ogunte, where half the time she lives in the water, half the time she lives in the woods. She carries a machete, because it's that idea of, again, the mother, the producing, or the mother earth, but producing fruit, producing something, which is one of the reasons why she has the machete. But in a very simple sense, Brother Akili, when you're dealing with sisters, You determine the course. You determine the path that the water is going to flow on, right? And I will give you just a little bit of understanding in this sense, because there was a quote I was thinking about a little bit earlier, from the book The Art of War. And you guys know there's been times I've actually, I think I did it. Yeah, I did a show before sharing some of some of the concept from that particular work. But there's a part where it says water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which over which it flows. So the soldier works out his victory in relation to the flow to in relation to the foe in which he's facing. Excuse me, I messed that all up. So I'll say it again. Water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows, and the soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he's fighting. The foe whom he's fighting. The foe whom he's fighting. It's like a tongue twister. So if you think about that, in a sense, you start to understand the mutable nature of the water energy. So a lot of times, if you actually have a woman on your hands, okay, because you might not have a woman, but you can, there's little litmus, just like they do litmus tests to figure out if we're men or males. There's litmus tests to figure out if they're women or females. They do little things to try to figure out where we're at, where our convictions are, and things like that. Sometimes we don't do that because we see a behind and breast and we say, oh, it's a woman. All the blood rushes to your penis and you stop thinking. But in that sense, you start to see, like I said, if you don't like your woman's personality, give her another one. What is personality? Personality is a trait of the spirit. So what are you injecting into your lady? Spirit. She's a soul already, but the soul is indifferent. So she'll be whatever you put into her. This goes back to the show on authority, you see. So if you're unable to take that level of authority, which may mean you're not connected in that way, then they're not going to follow the path. Now, does that mean that all women are receptive to that degree? No. This is what you have to test for. Some women are like dry sand. They've been used and abused, because of their own poor decisions by the time you got to them. And they might be 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, but they've been ran through already by the overlords of this society. So by the time you come talking, they don't want to hear anything you have to say. You're done. And you have to be able to move swiftly in that sense to kind of see if you got something of value there. If you don't, keep it moving. Because you'll get sucked down. It becomes like a landmine field. You get sucked down into a vortex of foolishness with that. So like you got one sister there who, like you said, she doesn't work, but she's spiritual. Well, and you got one who is an executive, but she doesn't care about spirit. In a simple sense, like I said, you sit back. I don't know the full story because I don't know about them per se, but you have to kind of sit back and determine what the value potential is of what those relationships could actually be. That's number one. I don't know if you're trying to wife these two women or you're just enjoying sexual recreation with them, for a physical release. I don't really know, the nature of your relationship with each one. But I will say this to you, as a man or as anyone listening, if you're striving for the values, the highest ideas and the highest values, that your culture presents to you, has given to you, there's really very little reason to settle. Sometimes we're just so used to picking from the bottom of the barrel that we get into this real culture of settling. We're told what we're supposed to like. So I'm spiritual, but I don't have to have a job, or I don't have to work, or I don't have to have money. Well, it doesn't mean that sister doesn't have a value, but if you try to superimpose certain values on her that's not there, then you'll go crazy. You see, peace, Brother Haru, peace. Yeah, I know you got to go to work early. That's one of the reasons why I answered this question, early, but I knew he leaves out usually around the same time. But yeah, so in that sense, you want to take a strong look at that, man. What is it that you really want to do with these sisters? That's really the key. Like I said, if you're wifing them up, that's one thing. If like I said, they're just just sisters that you're having fun with, you don't need to be worried about if she's working or if this one's that or whatever, So yeah, kind of look at it from that sense. But I would ask this question to you, Brother Achille. Do they know about one another? Or at least do they know that you deal with multiple women? Okay. So I like that answer there, because that determines the quality of spirit that you're able to inject, and if you can even do anything with them. All right. But, and feel free to answer that in the chat room. So like I said, that particular quote was interesting that he asked that question. He said, "Awesome. Thank you, Chief. Yep, that's my executive." I don't understand what you mean when you say, "Yep, that's my executive." You saying the executive is your wife, or the executive is your side piece? What do you mean? And again, do they know about one another? Or at least do they know that you deal with multiple women? You know, you can't apply, and I'm not saying you aren't, brother. I'm speaking generally. You can't apply these concepts in a vacuum, and you can't apply these concepts if you still have a Western sexual imperative. It doesn't work. I know polygyny, or plurality. It seems very attractive to a lot of men, because it seems like this is my opportunity to finally come clean about what it is that I really want. I don't because now that I find that it's a part of my culture that I'm striving towards, I can actually live this way, but it's a part of the culture. It's a part of the culture. There's other things that have to be in place, and you can't. A lot of times we create these hybrids of Western expectations. So, like I said, you'll hear people say, like, "Well, can you take care of 2 or 3 women?" That come in with that stupidness. It's a dumb question. First of all, it's just a dumb question. A lot of times you get that from people who don't even understand the nature of polygyny. They don't understand the nature of plurality whatsoever. So they'll still make statements like that because really they're trying to shut you down. Now there's an answer to them, but just by the very nature of the question, you find out things. So you need to learn those things. Now you said, yeah, they know each other, but they don't like it. But I'm working it out. Now this sounds sloppy. They know each other, but they don't like it. So you have 2 women who don't equate to what it is that you want a woman to equate to. You're practicing plurality. Neither one of them and then they don't have to love it, of course, but you're saying you're working it out. This sounds like a waste of time. I'm gonna be honest with you. Sounds like a total waste of time. Yeah. You might have to call in at some point on this one, because I'd like to know, like, how long y'all been dealing with each other, and what's your plan ultimately with these 2 sisters. What are you doing? Because all of that again adds into it. Like I spoke about yesterday's show, women move towards authority. They move towards structure. And sometimes brothers will get off on the idea. I'm not saying you are. Again, I'm talking generally. They'll get off on the idea that I got more than one woman. Yeah, these are my 2 queens. I got 2 queens. And that's not hard to do. That's easy. Nowadays, you could juggle 10 women. That ain't really no big deal. The key is, like, what's the structure about? And then are they quality women? Because you could have 10 hard-headed women in your camp and just be running around in circles, not being able to get anything done. Because you might have a bunch of females who don't respect anything, and they don't respect manhood. So they'll get with you because really they feel like they've been forced into that. They get with you out of desperation, not because they're really choosing you. They're just getting with you because everything else around them didn't work out for them. And you feel like, yeah, these are my queen. Sometimes brothers I see get a little disillusioned with that. But you got to hold the culture first, man. That's your foundation, the culture. Like you said, yeah, my mom said the same thing. Right. Can you take care of 2 women? What the heck does that mean? And like I said on the Leah show, you're asking me if I can buy 2 women. Ultimately, that's what it means. Can I buy two women? And yeah, this ugly. This is the ugly one. But just like I said on that show, and I'll say again, certain people get certain things and other people don't. And what I mean by that is this: if you have preserved yourself in a certain way, just like I've heard women say before, I would practice polygyny if for the man who deserves it. Okay, now I don't totally agree with the statement, but okay, let's take that. I'll take that. Even I don't agree with it. So I want to put that disclaimer out there because I deserve it with that. So I deserve to live out my nature. But anyway, but let's just say we go with it. She's saying, that if the guy is quality, right? That's why basketball players can cheat on their wives all day. They ain't stressing that. You just keep running around, bouncing that ball around, getting that money. Keep me lavish. So the thing is, though, which is also part of the sickness, because you're buying her. If you can buy more than one, if you got the money, you can buy them. But I'm saying that to say that sometimes we're not aware of what we bring into the table and what we don't bring to the table. And sometimes we begin to make the idea very philosophical. I bring me to the table. Me. Come on, man. Stop. Because if I can't say that, you can't say that. So stop it. Sometimes people have preserved themselves in a certain way where they deserve certain things. If you're a brother who's been striving, who's been doing the work, you're making good decisions, you're building up your economy, your emotions are stable, you have your connection to your divine authority, you're conscious, you're cultured, you're committed, you're spiritual, you're the full package, then when you're building a family, you're building an organization, you're building a business. So you're able to go to that business and demand more now. Say, well, hey, no, I want the parking spot in front. I want the corner office. I want a company car, because these are all the things that I bring to the situation that will allow this to really blossom and grow. Sometimes, though, you guys don't look for those same things in the women that you deal with. You just look for their agreeance, for their acquiescence. And sometimes that can be problematic. So you begin to put responsibilities on sisters that they're not really ready for, because they're not coming with that. And like I said in that Leah show, when she had shared that how men should kind of take care of women, if I'm having babies and this and that. And yeah, and I agree to an extent, absolutely. But like I said, you should be able to incorporate your children into your work as well. Because some people will use childbirth as an excuse to completely retire. I've seen that many times. Or they'll see somebody who's doing something and they'll seek to retire on their back. They'll put enough effort just to get in through the door, and then once they get in the door, then they get lazy, they just fall back. And it just come with a lot of opinion and excuses. So it's about the quality of the people that you're engaging with and the quality of yourself. Sometimes, if you know that you're bringing, you got your checklist and everything is checked off, and you're bringing quality to the table, and you got sisters who are still not really trying to cooperate, why keep functioning from a scarcity model? Keep it moving. Bye. I'm going. I'm out. Again, sometimes we're not aware of what some people should get and some people shouldn't. If you meet a sister, I was talking to a brother the other day, actually, a good friend of mine. I never knew this, actually, about his wife. I thought all the children he had was his, but I just found out. He was like, yeah, he was talking about all the problems he went through with her. They had separated at one point, and she put him on child support and all this. And, they're together now, but he said, she didn't even do that to all the other guys she had children with. I said, oh, okay. I didn't, I just always assumed children were his. And, of course, by now they've been together forever. They growing old together at this point. So it wasn't really much to say. And all I just said, man, well, you guys been together long enough. You kind of know what you're going to get out of her and what you ain't going to get out of her, man. So stop torturing that sister. you know, she's giving you the best she can, man. You know, she gave you a healthy child because they have a son together. You know, and that's it. All that other stuff, you know, the stuff she been doing that stuff. So in that instance, you know, you wifed up somebody who had a couple of children by somebody else already, um, and the nature of the people who she had children with was really the character was very much questionable. So making such poor decision, you know, should cause one to look at the person that they're laying down with now. You know, it's similar to um, just like a guy. You know, sometimes you have to think about who you lay with, not just for tonight, but for the future. You know, your future lady or whatever you may get with may see who you've been with, and she'll look at herself funny. I know I've had that experience before when I've dealt with certain sisters, and I've looked at their exes, and I'm looking at myself like, whoa, wait a minute, that are we in an alignment to this? Is this an upgrade, or do you think this was a lateral movement? Because if that's what you're thinking, I need to get out of this relationship quick. You know, sometimes you look at the quality of what came before you, and you know, it causes you to look at the person a little bit differently. You know, so even in an instance like that, someone who lays down with a deadbeat, a knowing deadbeat, or a knowing malcontent, um, you'd have to question that person's sanity. You're gonna lay down with someone who probably is not going to um, help you with the responsibilities that you co-created, or you know, is just going to do some crazy stuff afterwards, and you lay down with them anyway. So now your sanity is in question, you know, and you'll find that a lot of times the person is actually insane, but you don't find that till after you spend some more time with them, you know. But like a hunter, you got to look at the signs and the clues. So you know, I would say that I'm going to go to the topic a little bit more, but I'm gonna Designs Not Defined says, I had a man tell me that he never looked for quality in a woman, just a face and a body. Yeah. Now he has a child with a woman who won't follow him. Well, he probably doesn't deserve to be followed. You know, he doesn't have it, you know. I said, well, take responsibility for that poor decision. I'm learning to be accountable for my poor choices, and men, I have to choose better. Yeah, you know, if he made a decision to get with someone because of a face and body, which is why we get with you, okay? So let me clarify. But getting with you and wifing you up are two different things. You know, if we see a woman walking down the street and we say hello, it's because we want to have sex with you. It's not because we want to say hello. All right? Unless we have some other type of agenda going. Not because I say peace a lot of times because I have an agenda going. My agenda is I want sisters, brothers and sisters, I do it to everyone, to understand that we can actually be loving and greet one another and not be trying to get with each other. But, you know, that's an agenda. But in a general and normal sense, yeah, if we get with you, it's for sexual survival. We're not trying to be friends with you and stuff like that. It's for sexual survival. You know, so when you have a situation like that, a guy gets with someone because he's looking at the qualities, not looking at the substance of the individual. Then and then now all of a sudden he wants to enact some other type of culture. That's unfair to the individual because that wasn't the premise that they got together on. You know, you have to suffer through whatever you chose. Like you said, you got to live out your decision. You got to be accountable for it now. And if you get with someone who's like, well, I'm not trying to hear all that, that's what you pick, man. You know, strategy and tactic is important before going into battle. And sometimes we do a lot of strategizing, but we don't establish our tactics. We don't put our systems in place. We don't put our engines in place. So even when a woman comes into your situation, like what Brother Akili asked, you got one who doesn't work, well, give her a job. Do you have systems in place where the sister can actually work for you? Which will also let you know she really wants to work. Because that's another little shocker that you'll find out. You know, I got a lot of years in doing it, so I can tell you every way to do everything wrong. You know, but there's a lot of signs that you find out in the beginning. You know, you get with a sister, and they all say the same thing. I would rather work for my family. I don't want to work for the man. I'm tired of that. I want to work for my. Okay, cool. Well, here, this is what I want you to do. And they'll drop the ball, which honestly I have to tell you happens 7 times out of 10. Because in the conscious collective is full of people who don't want to do anything but just work the system. And they don't care what the system is, whether it's the dominant society system or whether it's your pockets. They just want to work a system. Come around your house when they know it's around the time you leave for work to get a ride. Don't give you no gas money. Come around when it's time for you. They know when you making some food, things like that. It's all of that type of different energy, man. So you put little testers in place, man, so that you can properly strategize and properly give the proper tactics. And so going back to the idea, like I said, water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. The idea there is, again, as a man, are you creating defining shape? In your life, in your world, are you creating the defining shapes so that the sisters can flow through it? Because anybody going into battle and war, and that comes again out of the Art of War from Sun Tzu. And I was thinking about that quote this dawning. That's why it's kind of interesting that you asked that question. But going into war, essentially you have to learn the terrain, because the terrain changes from point to point. Even if you're a marksman, you have to see how the wind is changing, and then you have to look at the grain of the bullets that you're using, based on the wind that you're using, the distance. You got to learn how to mark targets, and everything changes, and things change throughout the day even. And sometimes we're coming in with the same ideology. We're unwilling to be flexible in terms of our spiritual growth, in terms of our development, in terms of even how we want to approach family settings. We're unwilling to be flexible. Just like I said with your situation, Brother Achille, you have two different women there. They know about each other. They don't like the situation, and sometimes you may say, okay, well, this is what we did back home. We're rigid in that sense without really kind of listening to how we may need to adapt things for the new terrain that we're at. And by I say adapting, I'm not necessarily talking about that harmful over adapting that we do sometimes, where we become assimilatist and we assimilate into something in order just to keep our head. Not necessarily that, but again, learning that water shapes its course according to the ground over which it flows. So we get a lay of the land and say, okay, well, this, because essentially what we're saying there is that we don't want to be fighting our situations. We don't want to be fighting our environment. We want to learn how to move through the environment without resistance, because sometimes the little resistance points become, like I said recently, that the obstacle becomes the destination. We get stuck at the obstacle. We don't go down the stream. I forget. I think that was a show on Destiny. I may have done. I'm not sure by now. It only takes a couple of days for me to forget them, or a day. But in either case, that's part of the great value of Oshun. She's not doing a whole bunch of pulling out knives and stabbing you in the gut and all of that. Like I always tell you, the Oshun energy is cloak and dagger. It's James Bond all day. You look at James Bond movies, and I love James Bond, the older ones more so, like Sean Connery. But he had his fight scenes. There was always one fight scene in the movie, but for the most part, what he did was mainly strangle people, poison them, shoot them with a dart, all kind of spy stuff. See, that's all Oshun. James Bond was Oshun. You see, so they learn how to use things by taking the paths of least resistance. The only time in the movies where they would switch it up, they would have them fight somebody real big. Something like that. So you could really see, I wonder if James is going to win this one. Can he fight someone that big? And then he would always still use something sneaky. He'd throw something in that person's eyes, some dirt, something, and then kick him off a train, a moving train, or kick him out of an airplane with no parachute, something like that, James Bond type stuff. But essentially what you start to understand with the concept, that Sun Tzu is offering us in terms of that is that, moving not only to the path of least resistance becomes an advantage, but knowing how the times have changed, knowing how the terrain has changed. And sometimes we kind of close our eyes off to that in our spirituality, because we're looking to go back to something that was, and it can become very difficult in a sense to grab the value of the things that were, but then also know what things need to stay back there. Some things we need to get rid of. Some things that were causing problems for us way back when. And there's nothing wrong with scrutinizing things at that level to see what's really right. That's why I asked the questions about those sisters. Is this recreational? Are you trying to wife them? This, that, and the third. And, even when you're doing things like that, you want to ask why. Why is it recreational? Why am I trying to wife this sister up? Why am I, because again, water shapes it according to the ground. And sometimes, like I said, there's certain obstacles that we get stuck on. We just stay there for 15, 20 years scratching our heads. Instead of just walking around it. We still trying to figure out how to move it. And not understanding that if you create a flow, and if you create a flow even around the actual things in your path, eventually you're going to wear down the things that are in the path. Why are river pebbles so smooth? Because they're being worn down through erosion by the water. You see, so you just kind of have to learn to keep things moving sometimes, and that becomes difficult. I've seen that so much, and again, in reference to the question that you asked, with relationships here in the West, people really get stuck on that. They really, really get stuck on that, feeling like, which is really an excuse. I hear brothers say, man, I can't nation build because these sisters are hard-headed, or these sisters are this or that. Well, that's not how you build a nation. You got to build a civilization that the nation's going to sit on top of, and men build civilizations. So you just making excuses. You could have been did this. You could have been established your economy. You could have been bought land. You don't need a woman to buy land. You don't need a woman to even establish a homestead. There's a lot of things that you should be and can be doing yourself before you even start to engage with a female. So a lot of times, sometimes we use this archaic system of how things should be done as an excuse not to do anything. And again, that's ignoring the idea that water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. And remember, the second part is that the soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he is facing. So what you find here is that the soldier is working out his victory. Let's start there. The soldier works out his victory. So it's not saying that the soldier works out his fight. The soldier works out his victory. See, like, even with my youth, before the fight, I had them do, of course, the full 5 sense meditation. Not just, I said, like, because I asked them, I said, what is it going to feel like to win? Because that's all we doing is winning. That's all we do. Everyone else around you saying, just as long as you enjoy yourself. I was like, yeah, you're going to enjoy yourself, but you're going to enjoy whipping his ASS. That's what you're going to enjoy. All right. And, he's with it, So, but I said, what is victory like, though? And he was like, what do you mean? I said, well, what does it smell like? And he said, it smells like sweat. I said, no, a fight smells like sweat. I said, what does victory smell like? And he was having trouble producing that. So remember, I told you guys before, one of the greatest ways of manifestation is to present a mental challenge to yourself. Like, I got so much money, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know where to put it. And then the body, or not the body, but the mind, it has a natural inclination to resolve the challenge. So it's the same thing there. I said, well, what does victory smell like? And he said the sweat. I said, well, let's try this. What do you want to eat after? Because, we had to cut weight for the fight. So boy was starving. I'm feeding him strictly on spinach leaves, and his treat, he might get a half a handful of trail mix. But so he's cutting weight, a lot of lemon water. So I said, what do you want to eat? He said, okay, this one, maybe Ethiopian food, whatever. So okay, so what does that smell like? So he's going through the smell. So, of course, I'm giving you an example. What does victory taste like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? So you go through all the different senses. So like you see in the second part of what Sun Tzu is saying in that passage when he says the soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he's facing, you start to say, this is what my victory looks like based on that. So like, one of the things that we said, well, I'm not going to tell you what we said when we're doing rituals, because I mess around and a relative of his next fight might be listening and know our secrets. But there's certain things that we say to the loser, so there's certain things, again, like we say, the victory is worked out in relation to the foe whom he's facing. So based on that, like, okay, this is how I'm gonna tell you better luck next time. This is how I'm gonna tell you it just wasn't your night tonight, bro. Based on, so you start to understand that science a little bit more, and I'm telling you, it's extremely effective. So again, going back to the first part of that passage, water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows, and the soldier soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he's facing. Again, it's the idea, in order to achieve success, first of all, you have to plan your victory down to the smallest component. Because what's the smallest component in an army? The soldier. Notice that in that particular passage, it doesn't say the general, the commander, works out victory, in relationship to the foe with whom he's facing. The soldier. And a lot of times that's what I'm speaking about. When we come into our consciousness, we sacrifice a lot of the tactical planning, because we just want to strategize. We just want to talk about what we want to do. But the tactical planning is putting certain things in place, putting your systems in place, putting your engine in place, maybe even doing some preliminary A/B testing to see does this work a little bit better? Does that work a little better? Am I getting a better reaction there? And that all helps you to work out your tactics. So you have to work things down a lot of times to the smallest level. And sometimes you can see who's serious about what just by that. Like I shared once in the show that my mother was a bookkeeper, right? So a lot of what I learned about business stuff, came from watching. Because back in the day, she used to work for some. She used to do a lot of the work for different organizations, Jews in particular. And you learn at work for Jews, you learn a lot about how to do. You learn a lot about how to do things in a real gangster way. We'll just say that. And so I was always real good with numbers. Sometimes I would help as a child, little things, little calculation stuff. But she used to always say, I remember when I got my first business. My first business was at 8, but my first legal business was at 11. And I remember she asked me, she said, "How much did you make last year?" I had a little landscaping business when I was 11, and I had these 2 other people who used to work for me. And I said, "Oh, I made a lot of money last year." She said, "You ain't make nothing." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Well, that's how I determine whenever I'm working with a client, I determine how serious they are about their business. I want to hear a number. If you told me you did well last year or you didn't do so well last year, then I know that you're not really actually running a business. You're just hustling. So I want to hear, how much down to the dollar that you made last year." So I got into the habit of that, of obviously keeping better books, at a young age, and being able to tout off quickly, okay, this is what we made this quarter. This is what we made this year, because that was what made sense. I knew I was a real businessman. I didn't want to just be coined as a hustler, but I wanted to go beyond that, because really men shouldn't really be hustling. Hustling is for women. There's a different thing, that comes with hustling, and it's a different thing that comes with managing. It's a totally different vibe, or being the entrepreneur, So we all have our lane to get in it, and hustling is not a man's lane. That's why it never really works out for men. It's not a man's lane, So in any event, though, so it's the same thing there. It's planning down sometimes to the most minute details, being accountable for your whole army, your business, or your spiritual movement of yourself, down to the smallest detail. Being able to say, I made this, I made that, this is what I did, this is what I didn't do. So a lot of times we skip that idea, and we don't have that level of command, because just like an army, if you could look at that water stream, again, water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. Replace the word water with a movement. Or again, we're talking about the art of war, Sun Tzu, so it would be an army shapes its flow, according to the nature of the ground over which it flows, or shapes its nature, its course, according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. So, you learn to direct your family, you learn to direct your organization, you learn to direct yourself through a course that presents the best advantage for you, that presents the best advantage for everyone, you see. But sometimes you have to establish those hard protocols in a sense of saying, based on what's here and what's here and what's here, what's here, this is how we have to move, And like I said, sometimes the stumbling blocks and the coursework can become your destination. You get stuck there. I can't tell you how many people who I've spoken to who get stuck at the whole building a family thing. And like I said, I spoke about it with the men. A lot of you guys use it as an excuse. That's why I haven't done this. That's why, man, you don't need a family for that. For half the stuff y'all talking about. You don't need a family. I want to start my own business, man. But, sisters, what does that have to do with the sisters? Start your own business. Come on, man. It's like, stop making excuses. Because you'd be surprised how, like I had to tell my youth, after the fight, this is where it all starts. This is where it starts. Because, of course, before the fight, I was like, look, man, keep your little ding-dong to yourself, man. You got to keep your strength up. So now he's ready. He's ready. He's ready to unleash the beast, and like I said to him, you have to keep in mind that there's a conservation of energy that has to go on, of course, moving forward. But think about what it is that you really desire from your counterpart. What is it that you really truly want? Is it just sex? Is it just this? Is it just that? Sometimes again, the excuses to get things done is a part of your sickness. It's a part of your sickness. Brother Armour says, when you know your net worth in a business, you can apply those factors in your company growth. Exactly. But how many people take personal inventory like that? Which I always talk about doing. You have to take personal inventory. And again, the idea of shaping the course. So you're determining and guiding how your whole movement or your business is going to move based on the course that's in front of you, not based on your imagination. And sometimes, again, within the conscious collectives, we can have prolific imaginations in terms of what's in front of us, man. They trying to do this and they trying to do that. And if I do this, that's going to happen. A whole kind of strategy, but no tactic. No tactic, just a whole bunch of strategy. And, think about tactic with tactile, touching. You got to touch something. You got to actually do something, you see. But you just strategize, you just talk a lot. And you can't get anywhere from that perspective, whether you're building a family or anything else. As I always say, our people are people of show and prove. Our people are show and prove. And when you're building something, you have to have the fluidity of water. You have to have the fluidity where there's no fixed shape, in a sense. If you really want something to grow, if you really want to finally produce something on this land and not get stuck at the stumbling block. And like I said, the stumbling block is because you refuse to change your shape. So if you're a square coming down a stream and there's a boulder in the stream, you may have to change your shape to two rectangles, split and then rejoin again, or get skinny and long, just so we can get around this obstacle that's in front of us. And it's just a different way of thinking. And that's why I even, shared earlier with the comment that I saw that Sister Gloria had replied to, which I do appreciate. And in fact, Gloria, I don't know if you realize it, but I think you responded to that sister before when she said that other, I think it was her. And if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure it was her. Said the thing before about, oh, so you telling me I don't have a man because I'm mean. When I had made the statement that, oh no, because I'm no good. when I said that sometimes people are looking for good partners, but they haven't really established if they're good themselves. They just feel entitled to what's good. And then you said, well, out of all that he said, that's what you got out of it. I think it was the same person. So now you two have a relationship. But again, sometimes those type of discussions or arguments can become your stumbling block. They can become your ultimate destination of obstacle. And learning how to glide past it. Like I said, ask a question. What do you mean? Can you explain? You know, you almost like it's almost like you leave the beast dumbfounded while you skate to the side. You know, well, why are you trying to figure that out? I'm gonna keep going. All right, and I guess when you have a sensible answer, you can catch up to me and share it. But I'm not gonna slow down to listen to your answer. So that means you have to raise up your vibration to even catch back up to me, to even talk to me. Now that's where we get into, you know, the areas where some people feel that it's a bit arrogant, I suppose. And you can look at it however you want to, you know. But either you hop on, like I said in a meme recently, I'm going up the mountain, and either you come with me or you stay down here and you get toe up. You use the same idea in the stream. We're in a boat, and either you jump in this boat, it's moving at a certain speed. You're gonna have to actually get a running start to jump in. It's not gonna stop for you. But we're going to the other side. Now either you jump in or you stay here and get toe up. But don't think it's anybody's responsibility to preserve you or to save you. It's nobody's responsibility to preserve or save you. You know, regardless of what your religious thinking has implanted in you. Okay, that someone has an obligation to keep you safe and to keep you whole. So yeah, that's all I want to speak about. I'm not gonna make this a long segment. Fluidity, essentially, is what we're speaking about, and learning how to move and shift your shape based on what's in front of you. Because in order for us to really gain success in anything that we're doing, whether it be spiritual or otherwise, we have to learn what each form of victory looks like. Like if somebody says something slick to me and I don't say anything slick back, but I ask a question and it shuts down their slickness, that's a victory. It's a different kind of victory, but nonetheless, it's still a victory. You know, so it's important for us to be able to see, and through our movements and through our growths, you know, how different things appear to us. Sometimes we have a little bit of trouble with that because we have this fixed image in our mind of what it could only be. You know, what it can only be. And in that sense, you break down, or you may become the stumbling block to the orchestration of the spirits around you. Because sometimes you can't imagine how they would orchestrate something because their intelligence works completely different than ours does. But I'll tell you, anytime you can keep your head cool when something comes in front of you that would normally raise your ire, look at that as a victory. Look at that as a victory. You know, learning how to get along with each other is a victory. You know, learning how to deflect nonsense, because you know, we always end up in situations where somebody wants us to justify what it is that we're doing. You know, why are you eating like that? Why are you dressed like that? Why are you using that cream on your face? Why don't you just use some regular lotion like everybody else? You know, that we could just go right through the list. So we oftentimes find ourselves in situations, you know, where we feel like we have to justify our culture, and there's an emotional reaction at first. But when you can get to that point where, you know, you learn that that's just a part of the terrain, all of those people saying slick stuff to you, it's just a part of the course that you're walking on. You know, it's just like little hills and bumps in the course. Now, you're going to keep walking over those hills and bumps, and you're not going to make those hills and bumps the actual destination. You walk over them. You expect them to almost be there in a sense, but you learn how to adjust your footing when they come. So when someone says, that's a horrible show, I hate the way you handled the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, I'm not reacting to that. Like I told y'all before, if you ain't even got a picture on your avatar, we ain't got nothing to talk about. You don't even have a picture. What year is this? So you still back in the past where you trying to hide on the internet because you fronting like you doing something in life, and I don't want because they watching me. Anybody watching you ain't doing nothing, but just commenting on the internet. Ain't nobody watching. So I'm not paying any attention to that. And then again, on top of that, someone's opinion of what I do or who I am is their business. If they so graciously decide to share it, cool. But it doesn't really have much to do with me. Especially if it's delivered in a disrespectful way. If it's delivered in a disrespectful way, it's not aimed for me, because anybody who knows me would know not to speak to me that way. This was horrible. I'm disappointed. Who gives a F about your disappointment? Who cares? I don't care about disappointing anyone except for my youth. And I'm saying mate, relative, I care less. Because I know I'm going to do disappointing things with them. I know I'm already, I guess in some ways, many people could see me as disappointment. There's so many different things that I could say I'm a disappointment in already. Because when you're living a different culture and you're doing things that people don't understand, that you're going to disappoint them. That's going to happen. That could happen today. But that doesn't mean anything to me. Someone says I'm so disappointed in this one. Oh, really? So after a while, you start to learn that that's just par for the course. Different energies that come up like that, different people saying little slick stuff or whatever, it doesn't mean as much as you need to make it mean. Okay, it's just the little hills and bumps if you're going to walk this course. What's the course? Well, public information. If you're going to be giving information publicly that's actually effective, not the usual BS that everybody's talking about that doesn't actually work. If you're going to address people's sicknesses, when people get on your shows, they start talking funny to you or stuff like that, and you say, hold on, wait a minute, you can't do that. And it's actually changing the status quo and addressing the Willie Lynchism. If it's addressing the colonization and sickness that's inside of people's mind, they're going to have a reaction. They're going to tell you they don't like you. And you have to make a determination as to who is actually speaking. You see, just like, okay, I'll give you a good example, because Christians do this crap all the time. It's annoying, but it makes sense if you really think about it. But when they do it, it's annoying. If you start talking to them about consciousness, right? Sometimes they'll do this thing. They'll say, the devil's a liar. Or if you really start getting into it, they'll say, Satan, get behind me. Satan, get thee behind me. The blood of Jesus. Right? And of course, a lot of times in the midst of it, when they're doing it, it's like, would you knock it off? It's annoying, but they're actually doing the right thing. Let me think about it for a second. That's why it's good a lot of times to be able to push beyond your first reaction, your guttural reaction. Because when you're talking, you're saying something for them that goes against everything they believe in. So they're speaking to the spirit that they believe exists inside of you. They're not condemning you per se. They're not calling you Satan. They're saying that you're being used by Satan. Or the devil, when they say, oh, the devil's a liar. You're being coerced into saying things that are untrue because the devil is making you lie. You see? So they're speaking to the spirit of a thing and not getting distracted by the outer covering flesh of the thing. They go right to the spirit. You see? Now, and again, like I said, those of you tuning in first, you might think that I'm promoting that, but I'm not. You just kind of have to, ride with me for a second. There's different things that we can learn from different people, and it's not always good to shut them down. That kind of goes to the brother's question earlier, like, is there a value in a sense in that when people are rude like that? Or yeah, absolutely. There's a value in it. It teaches you how to move around, just like the first time you stepped on a rock. You learned if I feel something in my toe, reflexive action, don't push down harder. lean heavy on my other foot so I can quickly get off this rock. Or if I have to go up a hill, how I put a little bit more emphasis on my quads, so I can take some of the pressure off my knee. Or going down a hill, I'm going to lean back a little bit so I don't fall forward. You just learn how to adjust the movement of the water based on the course that you're traveling. So it's no different when someone's making a comment or they're being rude or whatever like that. It's all good. You kind of look at it and you use that. I don't want to say you're using them as practice per se, but it's an opportunity for you to see where you're at. Now, are they saying something wrong? They're saying something foul? Yeah. And like I said, once you learn the lesson, be okay with walking away from it. Be okay with that. Sometimes we allow our pain triggers to just become a part of our life and our culture. It's like even in fighting, everything I relate to sex or fighting or music, sex, fighting, music. But it's an example I think makes sense a lot of times. When you train, a lot of times, I'm always a big proponent of sparring. You got to fight, and usually with those who I train, I make them fight their first day, especially in martial arts. So people think you're gonna be sitting there moving slow, doing Tai Chi in the park, like, oh, this is gonna be so sexy. I'm gonna learn Kung Fu, and it's so artistic. No, you want to go dance. You need to join a dance company. Here, you're gonna fight. You gonna get the side of your face swollen up, your lip busted, all that. You're gonna fight. Fingers jammed, all of that. So, I make my students fight first day. Come on. Let me see what you're working with. And partly the main reason I do that is because I like to see what a person can do naturally. What's their natural reaction? And then I try to work with that as opposed to saying, okay, stop doing that. This is what you do. This is how you block. This and that. Some people, when they see danger come, they do this thing where they lift up on one leg. They try to cover their vital organs with their knee, and they wrap their hands or their arms all around their head, and they kind of curve in fetal position while standing on one leg, curved in fetal position. A lot of people do that when they really feel like something bad is coming. Well, this actually a way to block using that. That's a form of a block in many different systems, done properly. So sometimes you see that, you say, okay, cool, you got the whole coward style. That's your Kung Fu style, coward fu. And then you see that and you say, okay, well, let's work with that then. We'll work with your style. So it's the same thing there, but like I said, a lot of times learning how to move and shape the course in that sense becomes very, very critical as we're moving forward. Learning how, and like I said, we have to look at the lessons along the way and learn when to let the lessons go. So like I was giving an example with fighting, you get punched in the face. Okay, boom. That tells me I did something wrong. I didn't block. I didn't move where I was supposed to. Maybe I didn't tuck my chin. Maybe I didn't see the punch coming. My footwork was slide. Whatever it is. So, okay, cool. Won't do that again. It's one of the reasons why I like to spar, because you get that sting, and especially if you're sparring with newbies. Newbies never know how to spar, right? So they really be trying to take each other's heads off. They don't understand control. When you starting out, the people, even as an advanced person in the art, and I always tell other black belts, like, listen, the ones that's going to hurt you are them white belts. White belts will beat the mess out of you because they have no control. I did that once to an instructor, man. We were at a demonstration. He was so cool about it, though. But we were at a demonstration, and we were going over certain things, and he had me throwing punches at him. I was kind of early in this art. And I don't know, something just kind of fired up in me. And he said, okay, he said, all right, throw a punch, brother. I threw the punch. He did his little thing to show. And then he was standing there talking, and I just punched him in the mouth. I don't know. It's just like my arm just wanted to go back up in the air again. So I hit him, boom. He blocked it. He was like, yeah, so pow! Hit him again, right in bust his lip and everything. And he was like, yo, what are you? I was like, yo, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, brother. Like, I don't know. Because I was just kind of in that mode, just throwing punches. I mean, he had me throw like 50 punches out there. So like my arm is the repetition, it just went right back out in the air. Boom. You know, but he had already like kind of turned his face halfway, was addressing the group, you know. But hey, man, it happens, you know. So like usually a lot of times those newbies cause the most pain. Well, the same thing happens in your consciousness, you know, and you have to learn that once that pain is there, once you hit me on the side of my face, I don't need to let my fist stay there. You don't have to keep your fist on the side of my face for me to understand the lesson. I can say, okay, now I can move away from this pain, you know. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, man. They keep the pain present. You know, they want to stay, they make that obstacle of pain, or they make that blockage their actual destination. As opposed to saying, I got what I needed here. Okay, I got my sting. I got my lick. Let me move on from it. Sometimes even in relationships, people will do things like that. They'll try to constantly remind you of when they decided to allow your actions to hurt their feelings. They bring it up all the time. And remember you said it's 20 years ago. But remember, I never got over it though. Well, and there lies, that's where your tombstone will go. Here lies the one who never got over it. You know, never got over the hill. You know, so a lot of times we don't know how to let go of things that we don't need anymore because we've learned the lesson from them. And that's a part of that fluidity, you know, being able to flow through and flow around that I'm speaking about. And that goes all across the board because I see that often. You know, there's situations that happen as a result to learn, you know, that's why even in the chat room the other night, what I was talking about, you know, when Spirit Driven was going off and I was like, all right, well, she got it now, you know. And no, it wasn't Spirit Driven. It was with Dietrich and the sister, L. And I was like, all right, you know, we covered, we got it. Like, all right, mistakes made, let's move on. But that fire is up. And if you don't have the emotional control, because sometimes we haven't matured into our adulthood fully. So we still have the emotional control of children, you know, and people can't bring us back down once we get started, you see. And there's a whole nother bigger picture that connects to that. But yeah, man, so just kind of giving that information a little bit. Learn that fluidity. Learn the course around you. Take time to actually learn that, you know, beyond assumption of what they doing or what you feel it is. Get out of that a little bit and actually use your tactile senses. Like you would walk along a course. You might put your hand on something to figure out the shape of it, to figure out how you need to direct yourself. Take some time to do that. If you say you want to start a school, or you know, you want to start a temple, you want to be a priest or a priestess, or you want to have a business or whatever, you know, you're going to have to put your hands in some things. You know, in order for you to get better at it, you're going to have to put your hands in some things. And a lot of times that's what we run from, what we're so afraid to do. So we'll just speak about strategy all day. And that's not affecting anyone. That's not threatening anyone's status quo for you to sit there and strategize all day. We're addicted to think tanks. We need to build another think tank. We need to build a think tank. And then when you say things like, okay, well, the things that we're strategizing on, has anyone actually put the work into finding out what this is? You know, or finding out what that is. I think we had a discussion one time that was almost comical with Brother Byron and Brother Dietrich about going back to the continent and how one should go back to the continent. The only reason it was kind of comical because Byron was really, you know, he had his velvet gloves on. He was really trying to guide Dietrich and explain. And Dietrich was, you know, he had the Shango, the ram. He had his ram head on, you know, and he was just in one direction and was not trying to hear anything else. Everything Byron said, Dietrich kept coming back and saying, yeah. I hear what you're saying, but what I'm saying, but what I'm saying, but what I'm saying, I totally agree, but what I'm saying. I said, once that ram head is on, all you do is get out the way. Just let him run himself tired. That's all. You know, so yeah, you know, but the conversation there, you know, and I remember I lost a student behind that once. Actually, it was with Brother Byron. Very interesting. Brother Byron may remember that. But there was a brother, that's when we had the Facebook group, which I since shut down because of some of these type of things. But the brother had said something kind of insulting. Well, not kind, it was insulting in relationship to Nigerians. And this is a person I know who has never been to the continent. And even though you wouldn't know by looking at his Facebook and all of that, you know how they do. And he was going off, and Brother Byron, had the velvet glove on, and he said, listen, well, some of us have family in Nigeria, so what you're saying is a bit offensive and this and that. And it was short back and forth, but the brother was being kind of rude. And then I just jumped in, and I didn't call anybody out, but I said, it's important for us to get the experience ourselves before we make certain assumptions about what people are doing elsewhere. It's good for us to go to those places and actually meet those people, and get a real sense outside of the propaganda of how they actually are. And he just said, I'm out of here, and left, and then he came back. I saw him on some comments recently, but that's how they do, man. Threw his hands up in a little hissy fit, which is real, almost said something, which is real sissified. It's real sissified within itself as a male, because I didn't say anything crazy. That wasn't a crazy statement. Byron wasn't saying anything crazy. He actually was saying, listen, you're actually being offensive to my family. And you're going to keep going? So, again, sometimes bringing the light of sanity into a situation can clear out those parasites. Because how do you clear parasites out? Put them out in the sun. Put them in a sterile environment. They have nothing to feed off. They have no shadow, no dirt to feed off of. You want them to thrive, keep them in the dark. So just in me saying, well, we got to go and meet those people. Now, I know that guy had never been to the continent, but I didn't say that. I didn't embarrass him. I didn't call him out, but he knew it. He knew he was just talking junk. And a lot of times you'll get that. People will throw out all these opinions, but you just say, what do you mean? What are you saying? And it shuts a lot of that stuff down. And that's all a part of the course of consciousness. You're going to run into people like that. You're going to run into obstacles like that. Your mating may be a little bit rough. And sometimes you may say, well, based on that, I need to change the direction of the course. I've told so many of you, get some stamps on your passport. You'd be surprised. There are less sick people outside of the United States. There are people who you can actually engage with as long as you don't bring your sickness with you. That's the tough one. Everybody dreams about getting these foreign mates. And sometimes you don't realize that they wouldn't want you because you're too sick. They may get with you for a green card, get that visa popping, or, to get into that wallet, get some of those USDs. But sometimes you bring so much sickness, man. People are not trying to bring that into their family, no matter how poor they are. They're not trying to bring that into their family. Sister Marva says, following this conscious space and teachings help me in that direction. And, ooh, it feels so good. Ooh, it feels so good. Well, the Byron says, Chief, your velvet gloves are useful, Chief. It helps encourage the other to check themselves and look at alternatives. It also keeps the iron ones under wraps until needed. Yeah, exactly, brother. Exactly. You learn it. And that comes with time, man. Sometimes that comes with age. You learn, Ogun it doesn't always work. You have to kind of learn a little, learn to be tactful and learn some strategy and learn to kind of, that's the politics. Learn some polish, and then sometimes you'll do all of that and the person will still keep doing what they're doing. And that's when okay, time to cut the cord. You have to fall off into the abyss because you're feeding off of me. Cut the cord. It's nothing worse than when you're going through all of that, because sometimes people don't understand the enormous energy it takes to do that, to show that constraint when someone's going off. Each time, because for the non-thinking that they're doing when they're ranting, you have to think 7 or 8 times before you speak, and they're just blah, 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 just saying whatever. And then you have to think about what you're saying, think about what you're feeling, think about what they're feeling, think about what you want to say, think about how to say it, think about what kind of reaction you're going to get from them, think about what to say next, think about where this is ultimately. You have to do all this thinking, and all this person is doing is just, having diarrhea of the mouth. That's it. it's extremely exhausting. That's why you'll see again sometimes, and I spoke about that a little bit yesterday. Some of you who have personally contacted me see sometimes why I shut it down. When it's disrespectful, it's draining. Because I'm not going to go off on you. That takes energy. Um, and for some of you, you're too old for me to have to explain some of these things. You're just too old for that. Being that disrespectful, or being, some of you sisters a little bit too sassy, and you think it's cute, and you don't realize the only reason I'm not responding to that is not because you done got me dumbfounded because you just so sassy. It's because I don't feel like breaking you. You're not worth the break. You ain't worth breaking in. So I just say, sister, don't contact me again. Especially after I warn you, all right, come on, chill with all that. All right, enough. And you keep doing, what's mad? Can't take it, chief? Can't take it. You can dish it out. All right, bye. Bye. Because you don't realize. Like I said, it's like a gnat trying to go against a gorilla. You're just annoying. I don't want to swat you. I don't want to end your life. But just stop it. So sometimes people are not able to, they don't have that situational awareness in that sense where, it's like a salesman who doesn't know who to pitch to. They pitch to everybody, and they pitch the wrong pitch. It's a time when you got to pull back on some of that, and you have to change your course based on the terrain. Like there's a certain way that I'm going to speak to Brother Byron, certain way I'm going to speak to Justin, certain way I'm going to speak to Sister Marva or Brother Keith or Shamika, anybody who's in the in the chat room, any of you that I know. The course changes based on the person. I mean, that's called respect and courtesy. And some of us don't really have it. Some of us are not respectful and courteous to our own environment when we're trying to get things happening. That's why we never actually get it happening. That's why it never pops off. Because we're not studying the course. We're not studying the terrain. We got a new thing happening here. Like I said, there's certain situations that we deal with here in the West that our elders don't have an answer for. That's just the truth of it. And some of us are getting old in our consciousness. Some of us have been in this for a long time now. We're coming into that elder space. We have to have the answers for this side too. It's just like if you go to Kemet, they're going to have answers for things that people in Nigeria may not have answers for, even though the Yoruba may have migrated out of Kemet, but it's a totally different environment. We got sand, we got tropics. That alone. So it means that we have to move a little bit differently now. Well, what is the difference over here? With all the seasonal changes and the proliferation of all these policing agents and the way we do business over here and the clothes that we wear and everything, the course is completely different here. So we have to guide and change the way the army is moving, the way the family is moving based on where we are, and that requires tactical training. And you can put yourself to that. So many things you say you want to do, have you touched? I talk to some of you brothers so much sometimes, say you want to go to the continent, you think about taking your family out of the country, but you've never been out of the country. Stop strategizing, man. You're going to have to put some recognizance in. You're going to have to take a trip. You have to save up for that plane ticket. You may not be able to take you can't take the whole family. You may have to go by yourself. Or you want to start a business, but and you want to start a storefront, but you haven't spoken to any realtors or going and called any for rent signs on any of the storefronts in your area to see how much it's actually going to cost. That was the whole funny thing about the Dietrich and Byron thing, because Dietrich was nice. I mean, Byron was nice trying to say, well, you need to go there first. And Dietrich's like, yeah, but what I'm saying is we need to go there like this. And I know I haven't been there yet, but when we go, we need to go there like that. And he wasn't getting it. But, in time, you see it. It's about the tactical piece a lot of times, man. We got to put our hands on things, and everyone has a different responsibility in that sense. Brother Anwar says, us men would benefit from standing in our authority by strategizing and by making tactical movement. Yeah. Everybody. But yeah, especially men. strategizing and standing in authority, connecting to your authority. Before you stand to it, connect to it. Let me just say that in general, not just you, Brother Armor, for everyone. It's not just enough to say, I'm a man, so you got to listen to me. Nah, you ain't going to get it like that. Just like a woman can't stand in front of me and say, I'm a woman, I'm a queen of the universe. Nah, I don't know about all that. No. So are you connected to that? And not just because you feel connected or because you dress like it or because you smell like it or because you listen to music that tells you that. But are you truly connected to it? If not, you don't get that honor. Like I said earlier, sometimes we give too much to the wrong people. And that was in relationship to the whole, you got to take care of me and all that. Nah, man. You coming with 2-3 other children with another man. You taking care of yourself, player. The greatest honor that you'll get is just to be connected to my homestead. That's some of the ugly stuff that I don't, I save. But that's some of the stuff you guys need to understand, man. Calvin Charles Bay, send an email to questions@anewnation.org. Questions@anewnation.org. I see you said, I paid for the class. Can you please guide me through, get the help I need so I can start the class? You left your phone number. Please call me. Where to call or give the number. Nope. That's not what we do. We're not going to call you. Send an email to questions@anewnation. If you paid for the class, because there was a component issue on the site where sometimes if you paid for the class, we would have to enroll you manually. That has since been fixed for a good while now. So that hasn't been a problem for anyone buying the class. So if you want help just trying to figure out just general information, you should speak to other students. If you're not seeing the class in your account, then you send an email to questions@anewnation. But no, we're not gonna call you. And plus your number, that's a UK number. We're not call you in the UK. Well, I'm messing with you. But no, yeah, send an email. That's how that works. Okay. These shows are not for customer service in that sense. All right. Gina Lacey says, in the art of war, after surviving a losing battle, you need to change course, movement like fluidity or water, tactical strategy, and know your foe movement, ? I barely understand that question, Sister Gina. Are you asking after surviving a losing battle? Because we're speaking more about preparing and planning for victory. Preparing and planning for victory. Okay, so that's what we're talking about in terms of the art of war, not necessarily surviving a losing battle. Okay, but of course, based on what you just said, yeah, if you survived a losing battle, you would have to. It would be wise to go back and reassess how you came at it every single time. Yeah, because a loss is a lesson. So essentially, nothing is really lost. If I'm somewhat understanding what you're asking there. Okay. All right, we're gonna head out. I know everybody. The chat room always starts to heat up at the end. Remember, tonight is Monday. That means you have the women's call tonight at 8 p.m. And again, as I hinted to Sunday, hope you sisters are moving in a progressive direction. I'm not on the women's calls, of course, but sometimes when sisters get together and there's no man present, the conversation falls to, I'm not going to say sisters, I'm going to say females, because there's a stark difference. The conversation sometimes falls to a lot of bashing, not bashing, but a lot of just poison sharing. And that's where the elders in the conversation need to really come forth and act like elders. Sometimes there's too much silence in that sense. There's too much silence when you're hearing things that don't make sense. You need to come forth and speak. You know, women need guidance. I don't care how anyone takes it, or I know people get offended when I say things like that, but women need guidance, period. You know, men, you are put here to provide that guidance. And sometimes in certain environments, yeah, you're going to have females who are resistant to it, and clear light, good light, will burn away the parasites. Sometimes you have some females who will feed off of other females, you see. But if the conversations are consistently going into a direction where there's a whole lot of, and I'm going to say this, false victimization and coddling of a false victimization personality, then you are sharing sickness amongst one another. I have to say that to you. And there's a reason why I'm saying it. So just think about that. I'm not speaking as generally as you may think. If you all share the same sickness, doesn't mean that you're all well. This means you got some work to do. I knew it's not a home to feminism. I knew it's not a home to any type of divisive energy or tactic that would keep families apart. I knew it's not even a home to those who have manipulative agendas to utilize the resources of others to curate and preserve themselves. Everyone has a job to do, even the children. Everyone has a job to do. And even these shows are not an excuse for you to not do what the heck you're supposed to be doing, because that's why I always give the phone number. You can put your earpiece in your ear and keep doing your work while you're listening. Shows are not an excuse to not get up off your behind and do what you're supposed to do. No one is here to curate you. You're not some beautiful porcelain doll that someone's going to sit on the shelf and just dust and curate and keep pretty. Keep that in mind, all right? And just reflect on what I'm saying. Women, females, both of y'all. Reflect on what it is that I'm saying. I know everybody says, you so hard on the women. You so hard on the women. That's a tactic to try to discredit whatever it is that I'm saying. I'm not hard on anyone. Y'all ain't see me hard. You see me hard on somebody? Come to the studio. Watch when I'm working on music with people, or come see me in the gym. Watch when I'm training somebody. This, I don't even have the velvet gloves on. I have the soft, fluffy rabbit gloves on. I got on mittens. This is not being hard on you. No one's being hard on you just because they correct you. You got to understand, again, you're a watery energy. You're going to flow and splash all over the place. Someone has to create form if they want to actually build something. There has to be some level of conformity in order to build a civilization. It just that's a part of it. So you sacrifice some of your individualism in order to build civilization. And I know a lot of people are afraid to speak on certain things because they don't know how to handle the responses. That's why a lot of you, men and women, like when you hear some of those rude responses, you have to be able to hear it and start to map out what your responses are. Even if you got to write it down on a list. Person says this, I got this. Person says that, I got that. Da, 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 da. You start to, that's how you kind of map out the terrain, because you get a sense of all the bumps. If somebody says, all that conscious stuff don't pay the bills, what do you say? If somebody says something like, yeah, it's good to know about who you are, but you got to learn how to deal with other people in the world. How do you deal with that one? You could have been so much more than what you are, but you decided to go this route, but hey, I can't knock it. You do what makes you happy. Condescension. How do you deal with that? Here's another commonly used one. You just sound bitter. How do you deal with that? You know? So, you do anything he'll tell you to do. That's your problem, girl. How do you deal with that? You know, so there's so many different obstacles that come on the path in terms of building and moving forward. And sometimes we get thrown off guard. We don't know what to say. And sometimes the person who has the ability to articulate what to say, um, they seem like the most intense. You know, oh, you real intense. No, I'm just smart. I thought about what I wanted to say before I said it. That's what I am. I thought about what I wanted to come out of my mouth. You didn't. There's the difference. You see? So no, I'm not hard on anyone. Trust me. This is nothing. You know, and I'm not saying like, oh, I'm not hard on you because I could be worse. And I'm not saying that, but sometimes we're just so unused to taking criticism in that sense, or being corrected in that sense, because we don't understand what it is that we're here to do, and what it is, the value that we're supposed to bring onto the planet. And if people don't want that guidance, well, that's fine. You know, that's cool too. Just don't get with them. You know, if people are constricting your ability to function in your natural way, in your natural order, then it would be best not to be around them, male or female alike. You know, but start with the basics and the fundamentals of your natural way first. Okay, before you start making declarations about how great you are or what you should be receiving just because of your biological designation. You know, it's not that easy. Doesn't happen that easy. You got to put a little bit more into it than that. All right. Okay, family. So I'll see you all tomorrow at 1 p.m. All right, 1 p.m. And we'll be digging into more topics then. But today, water. It's all about that water. All about that water, 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 water. And learning to conform and shape based on the fluidity that's required in order to adjust your course for the environment. Okay, so take a look now at your environment and all the obstacles and the things that typically tend to come up in your environment and to come up into your world, and ask yourself if you have an answer for them, or if they're constantly throwing you off balance. All right. Until such time, this has been Chief Yuya with Community. If you're not a member of the Our New Nation, you can join through ournewlifeglobal.org, ournewlifeglobal.org, and you can take classes at seduluhouse.com. Peace. I'll see you all tomorrow.